Chapter 1, The Terms of Betrayal. The letter arrived by courier in a thick white envelope, sealed in red wax with the Vale family crest and Ouroboros biting its own tail. Ethan Vale stared at it without moving, fingers steepled under his chin as his attorney read aloud the clause that would determine the future of his empire. In order to receive controlling shares in Vale Global Holdings, the heir, Ethan James Vale, must, within 6 months of Harold Vale's death, present proof of a legal engagement and demonstrate emotional stability through sustained appearances and behavioral evaluations. He didn't laugh. He didn't blink. Instead, he said flatly, he always had a flair for the dramatic. Gerald, his attorney, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. It's not entirely uncommon for patriarchs to include moral stipulations in their wills, especially in family-led companies. Moral stipulations, Ethan repeated, voice arid. Is that what we're calling psychological warfare now? You can contest it and drag this out for years, watch the board tear it apart and devour each other in the meantime? No. He stood, straightening the cuffs of his shirt. Navy silk. Custom. Impeccable. Draft the announcement, Ethan said. I'm getting engaged. The address hadn't changed. The building was worse now, graffiti bleeding across the bricks, a for sale sign hanging lopsided in the window of the corner bodega. The scent of stale oil and city sweat clung to the humid summer air. Ethan climbed the cracked concrete stairs 2 at a time, ignoring the flickering hallway light that cast warped shadows across the peeling wallpaper. Apartment 4C. He knocked and waited. A second later, a woman's voice shouted from inside. If you're here to collect, I don't owe anything until next week. It's not your landlord. A pause. Then the door opened halfway. She looked exactly the same and completely different. Lena Hart stood barefoot in threadbare sweats and a tank top, her curls pulled into a haphazard knot on top of her head. A faded camera strap hung around her neck. Her eyes, though, still the same burnished bronze, still sharp enough to cut steel. Those eyes widened for a single breath, then narrowed. What the hell are you doing here? Ethan didn't flinch. I need a favor. Lena snorted. You haven't spoken to me in 10 years. You're a billionaire, and you need a favor? I'm aware how it sounds. Oh, I don't think you are. You vanished, Val, like I didn't exist, like what you did didn't matter. Lena, no, say whatever you came to say, then leave. He didn't look away from her. I need a fiancé. She blinked. Once. You're drunk. I'm not. Hi, then. I'm serious. You're insane. He stepped forward, the smell of cologne, amber, clean, briefly mixing with the scent of burnt toast from her kitchen. My father left a clause in his will. To inherit the company, I have to get engaged within 6 months, then appear emotionally stable. And you picked me? She asked, disbelief laced with venom. Why? Because I'm obviously so emotionally stable? Because I trust you. A bitter laugh erupted from her throat. That's rich. You didn't even trust me enough to explain what happened back then. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Ethan said. Just a contract. 6 months. You'll live at the penthouse. We'll make public appearances. Nothing physical is required. You'll be paid generously. How generously? He named the number. The silence that followed was immediate and cold. Lena's face betrayed nothing, but her grip on the doorknob tightened. She said quietly, Do you think I'm that desperate? No, Ethan answered, voice low. I think you're proud, and you have every right to be. But I also think you're broke, and your landlord is 2 weeks from filing eviction papers. Her shoulders stiffened. I had someone look into it, he said, tone unapologetic. I needed leverage. You always did like control, she snapped. Get out. He hesitated. If you change your mind, I won't. The door slammed in his face. Lena sank onto the couch, heart thudding like it had claws. She stared at the envelope still in her mailbox, unopened. The one stamped in red from her landlord. She knew what it said. She glanced at the fridge. Empty. Then the bills on the counter. Then the voicemail from her sister about their mother's medical bill. Lena, I wouldn't ask if we weren't drowning. She cursed under her breath. Damn Ethan Vale. Damn his timing. Damn her own pulse for still reacting to the man who once left her behind like she was nothing. But that number, that money, 6 months, she told herself. Just 6 months. Ethan was in the middle of a call with the board when the elevator chimed. His penthouse stretched like a glass cathedral above the city, all steel lines and shadowed light. He turned when the doors opened. Lena stepped out, hoodie zipped to her chin, expression carved from stone. 3 words. I'll do it. And just like that, everything began. Chapter 2. Smoke and Mirrors. Lena Hart had seen penthouses in movies. Sleek, cold, silent spaces with impossible views and too much marble. But this was something else. The elevator doors opened directly into Ethan's apartment. No hallway, no threshold, just a sprawling space of glass and steel, flooded with natural light from floor-to-ceiling windows. The city stretched below them like a glittering surrender, vast and unreachable. She stepped in hesitantly, the rubber soles of her sneakers squeaking against polished stone. A housekeeper ghosted by in silence. Somewhere, distant jazz played, a moody, dissonant rhythm that didn't match the man she knew. "You live here alone?" she asked. Ethan, standing beside a bar cart, poured something amber into a crystal glass. "I prefer quiet." "I bet you do." He handed her a key card. "This gives you access to the private elevator, the garage, and the gym." Lena pocketed it without comment. He nodded toward a hallway. "I had the guest suite prepped, closest to mine, in case we need to coordinate logistics." "Logistics?" she repeated with a smirk. "So romantic." His jaw tensed. "This is a business arrangement." "I'm aware," she said, brushing past him. "Doesn't mean we can't pretend better." The next morning began with a dress, a stylist, and an itinerary printed on crisp paper. Schedule: 9 a.m., breakfast interview with Wealth Weekly. 12:30 p.m., paparazzi accidental lunch at Café Montrose. 3 p.m., charity event photo op. 6 p.m., joint statement video for Val Global social media. Lena glared at the itinerary like it had personally offended her. "So I'm basically your pet project with a blowout and good lighting." Ethan, already in his charcoal suit and pressed shirt, didn't look up from his coffee. "You agreed to this." "No, I agreed to fake a relationship. I didn't sign up to be a living mannequin." "You want the money, Lena. This is how you earn it." She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Instead, she picked up the dress, something sleek, black, and backless, and muttered, "Fine. Let's play house." They looked good together. That was the headline the next morning. Ethan Vale and his fiancée, the Ice King and the Flame. Lena played the part well, smiling, laughing softly, linking her arm with his as if the gesture came naturally. But behind every flash of the camera, she could feel the chill in him. He touched her hand only when necessary. He never looked at her too long. It was like he was building an invisible moat around himself, and she wasn't allowed to cross it. Until it cracked. It happened 3 days in, after a press ambush outside the charity gala. They'd been warned the event would be closed to media. It wasn't. As soon as they stepped onto the carpet, the questions flew like bullets. "Ethan, are you still in therapy since the merger collapse?" "Lena, how long have you two been dating? Was there overlap with your ex?" "Sources say your engagement is a PR stunt." Any comment? Cameras flashed. Microphones jabbed forward. Ethan froze. Not visibly, not obviously. But Lena felt it. The stiffness in his arm, the quiet hitch in his breath, the flicker in his eyes. He didn't speak. He couldn't. So she did. She squeezed his hand and turned to the cameras, voice firm. "This isn't a stunt, but thanks for the reminder that ethics died with print media." And then she pulled Ethan forward, past the reporters, into the waiting car. He didn't speak until they were halfway down the freeway. Then suddenly he inhaled sharply, too sharply. His hand clenched the edge of the leather seat. His chest rose and fell with precision that looked almost mechanical. Lena turned. "Are you?" He shook his head. "I'm fine." "You're not." "It's under control." "It's not." Then came the silence. Tense, broken only by his breathing and the muted hum of tires on asphalt. "I can't breathe in crowds like that anymore," he muttered. She turned to him carefully. "Since when?" "Since Geneva. Since the acquisition. Since everything I built almost fell apart in front of the world." There was no vulnerability in his tone, just exhaustion. Like he was tired of pretending he didn't feel anything at all. Lena stared out the window for a long moment, then said without looking at him, "You're not fine, and stop pretending you ever were." Later that night, she walked past his office and paused. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, Ethan stood alone, his back to the window, looking out at the city. In his hand, he held a photo. She couldn't see which one, but she remembered. Summer, 15 years ago. They were teenagers. She'd just won her first photography contest. He was the only one who'd come to her exhibit. He'd waited until the others left, then said almost shyly, I think you see the world clearer than most people do. She'd laughed, teased him, but her heart had beat fast. And then later, when everything fell apart, she'd waited for him to explain. He never did. That memory lived in her like a splinter under skin. She walked away from the door before he could notice her watching. That night, in the quiet dark of her guest room, Lena stared up at the ceiling. Ethan Vale was still a stranger, but beneath the polished armor and emotional frost, something was cracked, and maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the only one still bleeding from a wound that never closed. The ballroom shimmered under chandeliers made of hand-blown Murano glass, casting fractured light across the glittering elite of Manhattan. Champagne flutes clinked, soft jazz played, polite and unobtrusive. Everything about the Vale Foundation's annual charity gala screamed money. Quiet, curated, and untouchable. But Lena Hart had never looked more at home. She wore deep emerald tonight, the silk dress hugging her in all the right places, neckline daring, her curls swept to one shoulder like a casual afterthought. She moved through the room with ease, poised and smiling, as if she belonged there. And Ethan Vale hated it. Or rather, he hated the way others were seeing it. Specifically, him, the man in the navy suit, the one leaning a little too close when Lena laughed, brushing her arm, lingering far past social decency. Ethan sipped his bourbon and reminded himself this was an arrangement, that he'd hired her, that her laughter meant nothing, that he had no right to feel the heat rising in his chest. And yet, he crossed the ballroom with calculated calm, cutting through the crowd like a knife through satin. When he reached them, Lena turned slightly, smiling with a softness reserved only for the public. "There you are," she said. "Senator Loring was just—" "Excuse us," Ethan said coldly, taking her arm. She stiffened. "We were in the middle of a conversation." "Now," he said. The senator raised an eyebrow. "Young love," he mused. "Always complicated." Ethan didn't wait to reply. He pulled her into an alcove off the main ballroom, near a velvet-curtained hallway. When he finally let go of her arm, she spun on him. "What the hell was that?" "You tell me," he said, voice low, eyes burning. "What were you doing with him?" "Talking," she snapped. "Making your optics look good. Playing the role I was paid to play, remember?" His jaw flexed. "You were flirting." She scoffed. "Don't flatter yourself." "You laughed like he meant something to you." "And why do you care?" she shot back. "Because it looked real? Or because it felt real?" Silence. Too long. Too heavy. She folded her arms. "You're jealous." He stared at her, unmoving. "No, Don't lie, Ethan," she said. "At least not to me." A beat passed, then two. "You were always like this," she said, voice lowering. "Hot one second, frozen the next. You shut people out, then punish them when they stop waiting at the door. That's not fair." "No? Then tell me, why didn't you come that night?" He stiffened. Finally, she'd said it. "Lena didn't stop. You knew what I was going through. You promised you'd be there. You said—" Look, her voice broke slightly. "You said I could count on you." "I wanted to be," he said, quiet but firm. "You think I didn't? You think I didn't drive to that hospital, walk halfway in?" She stared. "Then why didn't you?" "Because my father was waiting for me in the parking lot." Lena froze. Ethan looked away. "He knew. About us. About you. I don't know how. Maybe someone followed me. Maybe he had someone in your building. But he knew, and he gave me a choice. Leave you, or he'd destroy you." She blinked. "You left me to protect me?" "I left you," he said, "because he would have found a way to make you collateral damage, and I couldn't live with that, so I chose the only thing that let me keep you safe." A long, hollow silence passed. She didn't cry, but she felt the burn behind her eyes anyway. "I waited for you," she said, "in that cold hallway, alone, while my world fell apart." "I know. I would have done anything for you, Ethan. I did." He took a step closer, and I still think about it, every single day. He reached for her hand. She pulled back. "Don't," she said, voice raw. But neither of them moved away. The heat between them surged, thick, unspoken, humming with every word they hadn't said in 10 years. Her breath caught when he looked at her like that. She could still feel the way his hand hovered near hers, just inches from contact, from surrender. But then the moment broke. A distant laugh echoed from the ballroom, like anchoring them back in the reality they were supposed to be faking. "I need air," she said abruptly, walking away. Hours later, long after the party died and the city dimmed, they both lay awake in separate rooms, staring at ceilings too high and sheets too cold. Sleep refused to come. Instead, memories did. Her head on his shoulder at 16, the hum of summer crickets outside. His hand in hers behind the bleachers. A kiss that wasn't allowed, but happened anyway. And then the hallway, the hospital, the silence that followed. She buried her face into the pillow. He downed another drink. The night refused to end. They were playing lovers in public. But in the dark, they were just two ghosts, still haunted by each other. End of part 1. The past has cracked open, but healing is never clean. Lena and Ethan have confronted the first fracture, but the real storm is just beginning. Will buried feelings destroy them before they ever get a chance to begin? This was part 1 of The Inheritance Clause. Subscribe or follow to be the first to read part 2, where walls shatter, truths unravel, and the line between pretend and real disappears for good.